And we are back here at Meet and Shackle, day 2 of the MJ BizCon 2024 event here at the MJ BizCon Manufacturers Pavilion. And this is the end. This is the last one. Your host, Max Uhas from Dope SEO. And this is going to be a little bit different than anything that we've talked about all day. This one's going to be a little bit more like what got you into cannabis and the healing properties of the products that, like, what inspired you to get into this for the actual healing benefits versus like, hey, let's just make money. With me, we've got Aaron Bloom and the man himself. You know what I mean? The man himself. I'm going to pass this along to you guys, and I'm going to let you go. Do you want to go first, or do you want to go first?
So my name is Vance Dugger.
Vance Dugger.
Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a founder of GH Labs. And originally what happened was I broke my neck, and I have 16 screws and 2 4-inch rods in my neck. And during the surgery, we found out that I was allergic to opiates. And so that started me on my journey of understanding how to heal myself and handle the pain without taking opiates. And so from Albuquerque, in that time, you couldn't have a medical license because they were selected. Only few had them. So went up to Colorado, started GH Labs. GH stands for Generation Health. And I started on my journey of truly finding out how to heal myself. And it was a hard one because what we found is a lot of the products that was out on the market actually made it more painful for me to take because of some of the butane, some of the ethanol that
So it was the processing process that actually like affected the way it actually worked within your body.
It was.
Okay.
I didn't know that because all I had prior to that was I used flour. But then as I started to get deeper into the industry, I started to realize if the flour wasn't flushed, it affected my spine.
Right.
If I took any type of distillant, it affected my health. And so we kind of started creating products in our own environment for GH that CO2 that was clean. And so that's kind of why I started in the industry.
Nice. And then since then, obviously, like we were speaking before this. So essentially, these were made to, in a sense, help you. And then as the brand progressed, you figured out a way to just like get a great quality product out the door to everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, really what happened was when I first got in the industry, I wanted to save the world and save everybody off of opiates.
Right. Which is a noble cause, 100%.
How's that going?
Almost went bankrupt. we truly found out that what we were finding is that about 8% to 9% of the people that use cannabis use it for pain, use it for inflammation, use it for the terpenes.
Right.
So then I had to start pivoting, and I created a Discount Dabs brand. I created a K-Puff brand, and I created these other brands to support the funding of the research of understanding how to heal the body.
Gotcha. Beautiful. And since then, you've scaled. I mean, obviously.
So what we did was we built that company up in Colorado. We sold that, not the name, but the assets and everything. We sold it to a couple guys from the NFL. And then because I'm from Albuquerque, born and raised there, own a couple companies there, I decided to go into my own home space and start bringing products into New Mexico. So now we've been there for 3.5, 4 years. And we've scaled up pretty large. We have 132 SKUs, and we manufacture everything that you can imagine. We have entry-level product all the way to the high-end product. We have pure clean products. But what we have found in the space was that we wanted to reach throughout the United States.
Right.
And because of current laws, the only way we could do that was to start experimenting with some CBD as the base instead of THC, but then start manipulating terpenes to help us reach across the United States.
Awesome. Amazing. And I think that's fantastic. Aaron, let's just, because I know we're on a clock here. So we're going to come back to this because I want to talk more about the products you've created beyond since the inception. So Doc MJ,
Yeah.
for anybody that doesn't know, what's the story behind that?
Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing your story. It's people like you that we created Doc MJ for. Doc MJ is a medical marijuana physician practice.
Okay.
So we see people who want to become patients in states that have medical programs,
Right.
and want to qualify for the program. My personal story, I didn't want anything to do with cannabis, was not interested at all. By training, I'm an attorney,
Okay.
and I was very happy working and running nursing homes all
Okay.
across the country. And in Florida in 2016, where I'm from, it became legal medically. And the biggest challenge they were having was getting doctors who were willing to write the recommendations. So we had dispensaries opened. It was legal, but no doctor understood the medicine and no doctor understood the regulations. And they were scared that they
To
were
write a
on the
prescription
regulations.
to pass out a card.
Right.
Because they didn't understand what the precursors
There
were.
are two challenges. One,
Okay.
they didn't understand the cannabinoid system. And two, they didn't understand the regulations. They
Gotcha.
hadn't been written yet. We'd passed the constitutional amendment, but it wasn't clear what the laws were, and it was clearly illegal under federal law. So my involvement was, as a healthcare regulatory attorney, come into Doc MJ and say, how do we create systems and backup and a company that is compliant no matter what, so doctors will feel comfortable doing it. And it was sort of I'll call it a side hustle. It was sort of a passion project, nothing I ever wanted to dedicate significant time to. And then you start seeing the stories and you start understanding the power of the plant.
The medicine of it all.
And I remember when we first started, most of our patients were children,
Okay.
primarily suffering from seizures. And the tears and these parents, of joy.
Yeah.
And when we ran out of product, when the dispensaries didn't have product, just the disbelief that we can't go back to all the seizures every day, I realized this is really changing people's lives and just doing so much good. I was hooked. And in the nursing home world where I thought I was happy, and realized that helping people live dignified lives to death was a noble cause. It was a whole lot better getting up every morning to help people live better lives.
Absolutely.
And so we've just exploded from there, and it's been a great journey to be part of something that's just really making people's lives better.
Well, with that though, because you say that in the beginning it was mostly children, but I know that in certain states where it just went medical, like they have a really wide bulk spectrum of senior citizens that it's 60, 70, 80-year-old. I know Mississippi, we have some clients in Mississippi, and they're you got to realize 60% of the card holders here in the state are senior citizens. So I think from that sense, and it's obviously senior citizens are the ones trying to get stoned. You know what I mean? They're there for the medicine. They're there for the glaucomas, for all of the predetermined whatever you have to check off. Whether it's cancer, whether it's glaucoma, whether it's this. I have arthritis. I've herniated discs, anything. And which goes along with started. I feel it's interesting to see how many people come along where it's I didn't do this to get high. I didn't do this to get rich. You know what I mean? I did this because we can actually help people. Yeah. And because of that, it's great to see that aspect of the business, especially when you go to a giant convention like this. Yeah. It's a giant event every year. There's
nothing wrong with the psychoactive effect if you like it, but it's really about getting people healthy and not high. And for us, for our patients.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you were talking, so you have a CO2. All right. How does that work? Because I do know from a processing standpoint, there are so many different ways to process. Hey, you were I couldn't find a good CO2. Is it a cartridge or is it
so what it is when I was on the journey to try to find something that would act like flour, and help me with flour, because I would use flour and it would help me and I would be good for 20 minutes, but I had multiple companies to run.
Right.
So I couldn't be high
couldn't be baked
running
all day
my
long.
companies.
Yeah.
No, that just didn't work for me. So what we did was we went out and we purchased our first CO2 machine in 2012.
Okay.
And we started producing full spectrum oil that didn't strip down like distillate. There's a huge difference between distillate and full spectrum oil.
Right.
And so the full spectrum oil, when we put that into a disposable or a 510, and we could actually then start critiquing it to where you would take 3 or 4 hits, it would relax you, and you could still read a P&L.
Right.
But you weren't in pain.
Right.
You could still get rid of your inflammation.
Yeah.
And that's when I started really saying, okay, well, what else can I do with the CO2 oil? So then, and I get really deep into it. I get into frequencies and what the vibrational energy of the plant is.
Okay.
And so we started doing some experimenting with it's called a Rife machine. I don't know if you know, familiar with that, but we actually started taking indica and seeing if we can actually increase the benefits of it from the plant. We started introducing certain vibrational music when we were growing. So instead of just getting regular trim or biomass that people call to just the leftovers of the plant,
right?
We don't. At our company at GH, we actually use full plant material, full bud nugs to run through our CO2 machine.
So not just the stuff that everybody else is like, oh, we got this extra stuff.
No, we don't use just trim that they sweep off the floor. And so for me, it was a personal journey.
Yeah.
But we also had to figure out how to fund it.
Yes, of course. Of course. And it's an ongoing development. You know what I mean? There's so much R&D and it's like, oh, we've got it. And I don't know. I feel like you're a guy that's just like, how do we make it better? And then how do we make it better?
Right.
And then this is great. What's next? You know,
the funding issue is an important issue in the industry, right?
It is.
In order to get to the ultimate medical benefit of the plant,
right,
there needs to be money for the research and the experimentation to really find the ultimate value. Absolutely.
And when you're a private funder, when you're funding it yourself,
right,
that gets pricey.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we want to take care of our employees. We want to be able to produce enough. And so that's where the ethical comes into. If you're going to use distillate to make a bunch of gummies, then really what is distillate?
Right.
Versus rosin versus a full spectrum. And so right now the industry is being flooded with conversion oil.
Right.
Which is really upsetting to me because conversion oil is not healthy for you. It's not good for you. It does nothing other than just get you high. So my whole thing is if I can get a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old to ingest cannabis and it's helping them, and if they want to have the psychoactive effect and if they want to get high, that's cool. But let me try to reduce blood pressure on them. Let me try to reduce inflammation on them.
True.
And so those are the kind of products that we're
But
producing.
to your point, it's cool to get high, but they also have times they have to take care of kids. And they also have time where they need to go to work. And so you need the products that relieve the suffering without the psychoactive effect.
Correct.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. What's funny is we were talking before, and it's just like I'm very familiar with your product, very familiar with your brand. I just didn't realize the story that went behind it, you know. And I think it's interesting because there's a lot of quote unquote health brands, you know what I mean, that like throw it in there. It's like, oh, you know, whatever. But like seeing what you've actually done and the fact that it's like you developed it for yourself and then to help everybody else, I think that's great. And then the same thing goes along the lines here. Do you guys only operate in Florida?
No, we're in 7 states right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So basically, is it all in online telehealth or?
So in Florida, we're in person for initial visits. We're
Right.
required to be. In the rest of the states, it's telehealth.
Gotcha. And then with that, I mean, just having that ability feels good, doesn't it?
It's great. And the renewals are really what are rewarding. People
Right.
are coming back, and they wouldn't come back if they weren't getting the benefits. So it is tremendously rewarding industry.
What other states?
We're in Georgia, Texas, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Massachusetts.
Okay. Texas, huh?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Texas's program?
So,
Because I live in Texas.
yeah. So Texas medical program is clearly failing,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Or to be more positive, it hasn't yet succeeded.
It hasn't yet succeeded. Yeah.
The hemp market is obviously drowning it out. And the way the regulations work and the lack of distribution sites makes it almost impossible to get the medication to the patients.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot of patients that get cards they don't get cards, but get recommendations and prescriptions, don't actually fill them. And that's a problem in the distribution that the regulations have created.
Is that because of product supply?
It's twofold. It's the product limitations, and they are only allowed to have one distribution site in the state of Texas. There are 3 dispensaries, and they have to dispense from one location.
And Texas is huge.
It's a big state.
Yeah.
So they can drive the products out, but they've got to get back at night. So, you know, if they're in Austin, they want to go to Dallas, they'll come to Dallas once or twice a week. But if you're in Dallas, you can only buy it between noon and 2 on Tuesdays. And so they're severely limited by their.
That's not broken at all.
Yeah. So it's regulated by the Department of Public Safety.
Yeah.
So the police are regulating it,
Yeah.
not the health department.
Right.
So that's a challenge.
Ugh.
But I think they'll figure it out.
Well, hopefully, I live in Texas, so like,
Yeah.
I watch it and I'm like, bro, like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like,
29 million people there, and lots of people who could benefit from it. So they'll get there.
Yeah, literally. All right. Well, before they even start doing this, I know we're the last one for the day. Is there anything that you guys want to hit on, talk about, or anything that I didn't ask yet, or?
No, we just appreciate everybody bringing attention to the wellness and what the plant can actually do. And we appreciate you, Max, meeting with me earlier and kind of understanding my story.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about helping people. And so that's exciting for me.
Yeah. I would say that we need to find a way to have the rec market and the medical market,
right? And
not either or, and make sure we don't lose the healing properties of the plant in the rush to promote a recreational market.
Agreed. And it's I can tell you this, like, you hear the stories, you hear I mean, everybody I feel has a story in some way, shape, or form. There's anybody that's like really serious about this, and it's great to just meet guys like you that are doing this and just making it work. You know what I mean? And but not just doing it to where it's like, oh, I got a pipe dream, but like literally committing yourselves and the resources and the energy and the finances and everything that goes into it to get to where you are. Because you didn't, look, those machines aren't cheap. You know what I mean? No. Setting up an infrastructure where you're running a multi-state telehealth.
Yeah. Doctors aren't cheap.
Doctors aren't cheap either. You know what I mean? Training doctors aren't cheap. Creating the paperwork and the SOPs to train a doctor and educate them. And I think with some doctors are very resistant to learning. You're like, this is the way it's always been. I'm not going to be one of those guys that hands out one of those pieces.
Well, they don't teach it, right?
Right.
They don't talk about it at med school. There's no PDR on it.
Right.
So it's a challenge to get some doctors to accept it.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for watching. This is the last episode of, what is today? Wednesday? Thursday?
Wednesday. Thursday.
It is Thursday. I know, right? Where's this whole week gone? All right. Thursday. This is Meet Unshackled, your host, Max Uas. Day 2 of the MJ BizCon Manufacturers Pavilion. Appreciate you guys. How does anybody reach you before we jump off?
You can reach us at www.docmj.com.
Gotcha.
GHLabs.com.
GHLabs.com. There you go. Appreciate it. See you in the next one. Thank you both for being on.
Thank you.